You guys ready to get the show started?
Let's go.
Nope, we're canceled.
Oh, shit.
It was a good run.
Well, episode 10, we didn't make it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Bam! What's good? Welcome to Afternoon Tea, episode 10. We made it. The usual crew is back. Everybody's not, we can't fucking go anywhere. We're all trapped at home. I was like, hey, are you guys free for a podcast? And everybody's like, yes, there's nothing happening. We're all free and available. So we're here for episode 10. How you guys doing?
I could see you guys haven't got your haircuts in a long while.
Mm-mm.
I was actually considering joining the BGC.
You don't join.
Because
No, it's not an option.
Your choice.
It'll be the faux BGC.
Damn.
Because I can't get a haircut and I have clippers at home. I can just go Britney Spears on everyone.
My hair's gonna grow out pretty long. My barber when I went was like, yeah, I thought I had corona the other week, but then it all went away. Like as he halfway through my haircut, he's like lining me up, and like I was like, oh, it's over, bro. But then like nothing happened after, so I was like, all right, and I can't go back for like months. Like who knows the next time I'm gonna be able to go back to get a haircut.
You know, that thing's going wild. There's a lot of people out there that still don't take it that seriously.
Good old Florida, man.
Even in SoCal, man, I was listening to it as I was waiting for ice cream.
Whoa,
In an ice
wait a
cream
minute.
shop? You're in an ice cream shop, you piece of
Wow,
Listen.
no one here is taking this seriously, walking
I
around.
put a
licking his
mask
ice
on.
cream cone.
I put a mask on and I put some gloves on, and the store practiced social distancing. They said 8 people or 8 customers in the store only. They even set up the line so that there was 6 feet apart from everybody. It was great.
You know that ice cream store, essential business, got to keep running.
Essential
Yes,
business.
yes,
this
Brian.
time.
Yes, it is.
They're closing coffee shops, but ice cream shops are essential business. Is fucked
No,
up.
they're not. If
Having
they have a drive-through, it's open.
Having your mask on, but down the whole time behind your shin so you could eat your ice cream.
I got it to
Yeah,
go,
we see
Brian,
you,
and I
Karen.
put it in a bowl. Okay, it was covered in a lid, plastic wrapped, everything. Put it in a bowl and I ate it. Don't judge me.
That you went through
Brian.
all this effort to get ice cream through this apocalypse.
Yes.
This is the steps you're taking to social distance. You're like, you know what? I really need some ice. You couldn't go buy like ice cream from a grocery store.
I've done that also. But, you know,
Like the same day.
Brian doesn't understand. Listen, I love ice cream. Okay, I just can't help myself. Don't judge me. What do you mean ice cream is essential?
You're being judged.
Okay, so anyways, welcome everybody to Afternoon Tea. Obviously, Sajam, Brian F, Filipinoman. We're back in business for our 10th episode. We've hit double digits. We are not
10 months.
canceled. That's right. Yeah, it's every single. Damn, that's a lot.
It's almost been a year that this podcast has been going on. 10 months. Can you guys
It's
believe
actually
that?
crazy. Yeah, and we have not been canceled. However, you know, last month we've been talking about a lot of the potential events, the games we were looking forward to, and their tours. Everything got announced. Like what Evo lineup was announced. Some of the Pro Tour stuff was announced, but it's been a huge, drastic change for the worse, unfortunately, due to the coronavirus outbreak that's been going on. And we've been trying to just hold on to our sanity most of the time. I was thinking, like, what the hell are we going to talk about during these crucial
months?
times? But there's been a lot of positive news, regardless of what's been going on in the world. Just to kind of give you a small tidbit of what we're going to be talking about is, we still got a lot of games coming out. GG Strive being one of them, which is a pretty huge deal. And again, before we get into all that, we kind of wanted to talk about, I guess, the current state of FGC, and some of your thoughts on whether or not these Pro Tours are even going to happen, because we've had so many cancellations from majors and a lot of these other events just postponed. It's just up in the air right now. Evo being one of them, right? Las Vegas is already completely shut down. Will Evo even happen? And say that these Pro Tours or these publishers are like, all right, well, we're going to continue our tour like halfway through. Do you think that's even plausible? Because there's so many events that have all these points and people are just missing out on.
Yeah, I mean, especially for, you have to consider the CPT. They were planning to do a split season, which is like, I mean, now I can't imagine they can even do a split season, given that there'll be so little left of the year, even if there is part of the year left, right? Even if, let's say by some way, or how like September or something, or like October or whatever, everything is like sort of okay again, people start to travel and gather, at that point you have like 2 months to determine who will be in the CPT or something, right? So
Yeah.
to me, I suspect that most of the tours for the duration of this year will be canceled or not happen in any kind of normal way. Like, even if you try to do something like online qualifiers to gather people together, you have to have the finals offline somewhere, right? With everybody in one place and no audience or something, but you need like a whole crew of people to do the show. And it's just like a lot of stuff that I don't suspect will probably come together with how everything currently is.
Yeah. They already canceled the entire first half, so it almost seems like coincidentally CPT was the most prepared for something like this to go down. They're like, yep, the entire first half is canceled as of March 25th, a couple days ago. So they're not even going to pretend that anything's going to be resolved anytime soon. But the second half it resumes in July. That still seems way too soon. So I highly doubt any events are going to be happening at all through the summer.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, so Capcom's been pretty proactive about announcing what's been going on. So they already canceled a huge chunk of it. Other tours, like I hear the DBFZ players are getting a little restless because I don't think there's been any announcements from Bandai Namco really about what's going on with the future of any kind of DBZ tours.
They haven't announced, I think, tour details, but given what's going on, I don't suspect that they'll even try to lock them in. You know what I mean? Like,
right, of course. But it would be nice, I guess, for them just to get the official word. But a lot of people are, you can tell, are holding off on announcing things because they want some kind of government push to give an out for a lot of these events. You know, people can't cancel their own events on their own accord due to contract restrictions and, you know, facing financial ruin if they pull the plug in the incorrect manner. So a lot of people are approaching a wait and see approach, but it's not looking good.
That's an important thing to bring up. Sorry not to cut you off, but that was an important thing I think that you just brought up, is that a lot of people, they can't cancel the events until the government or the hotel or the city or the governor, like whoever shuts it down, because if they do it, it comes out of their pocket, right? Because they're cutting it. But if the event organizer doesn't have to do the cutting, then in that case, they're not going to be the ones paying for it. So a lot of people are like, why isn't X or Y event canceled already, right? And it's like, well, if they cancel themselves before the official go-ahead happens, then they're going to lose a ton of money. And in fighting games already, we've seen a lot of TOs in the last few weeks really be struggling because of stuff like this. You know, Jabali was tweeting a lot about it, and Michigan Masters was having a lot of issues. So I suspect, I don't know about you guys, but I think pretty much everything through the summer, including EVO, is probably not going to happen. It's just a matter of time until they can get canceled by whoever is running the tournament. Like, you know, if it's Mandalay Bay in the case of EVO, can cancel EVO and make it happen. But yeah, what were you going to say, Anton?
I said that COVID brought us back to the dark ages of the fighting game community. I feel like it's probably worse than what it was 10 years ago, because at least back then they got to play. We don't even get to play anymore. And I have a problem seeing that the CPT is going to happen at all, because all these events already are scheduled to happen. Like, those are the events that they chose for the CPT. But every part of the country, every part of the world is handling COVID differently. And what if one part of the world is still on lockdown because they recently had COVID and those events get canceled, and then you know, Chicago gets canceled, maybe Florida gets canceled all the way through summer. But that leaves us with 3 events in the US. For what if Texas is the last to get quarantined down when they rescheduled, like, Texas Showdown? They're still having bad cases of COVID. It's still spreading really fast. And then they haven't like released any information at all regarding on how they're going to do points. What about the 22 local spots that they're going to give out? What if the locals can't run because they're in different parts of the world? I just don't see it happening this year at all. Like, I feel like 2020 is going to be the ghost of the FGC. People are going to forget about it in the future, but right now, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I kind of agree with what you said about events not happening, but I disagree about the dark age point, because we have the internet now. I mean, the internet existed in 2002 or whatever era you want to call the dark ages. I guess that was more like 2005-ish. But we have YouTube, we have Twitch. Online for fighting games exists. I'll say that much. So I don't know if it's necessarily the dark ages, but I think we have to see the development of new pillars in the community stepping up to carry us in these times. We have an infrastructure that was not there before. I don't think it'll be the end of the FGC. I don't think it'll be the dark ages. people know about us, we know about the community, and we're doing our best to stick together. But things will have to change.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of changes towards those online tournaments, right? WNF and NLBC have been taking the step forward to provide these tournament scenes for the West Coast and the East Coast, respectively. And there's other parties doing the same thing for Grand Blue, especially. As an example, Ronin Rumble has taken up the mantle of doing all these Grand Blue Fantasy versus tournaments for East and West Coast, if I'm not mistaken. It's like region
and there was
specific.
the big Japanese tournament that happened yesterday with all the different games represented. They did like 3v3s where it was like Team Melty Blood versus Team Street Fighter versus Team Dragon Ball versus Team Yatagarasu and Kohime, and like all these different stuff that they did online too. So yeah, I think we'll see the big transition to online tournaments being very big this year, and I think that's a good opportunity for our players, who generally normally travel to all these events and stuff. They'll have to, if they want to compete this year, probably play in online tournaments, and that gives them the opportunity to not only still compete and play in online events, but stream while they're in online tournaments, right? And not have the usual stresses, I guess, of traveling and stuff like that alongside of it. So it's kind of one of those things where we have to switch up the way we're doing stuff, but I think things can still continue, and we can still have events in certain parts of the world with each other and things like that, which is, I think, at least one good thing that comes with something like this, right? I mean, we're all stuck at home for now. Like, what else can we do besides play online and watch stuff online and sit in our houses and be like, well, guess it's day 97 of getting up, sitting at my computer, and big chilling.
Right. It's crazy because I do see that happening, that people are going to be playing online, but I also see a lot more taking it to Twitter, being like, "Oh, lag caused me to lose." I see people even bringing up now that the online tier list for Grand Blue is the tier list for Grand Blue. Like how strong you are online is the Grand Blue tier list.
Yeah, so that game didn't really have any big offline events, right? Like it happened. Yeah. It came out right around the time where everybody is forced to come home. I don't think we'll see international competition for it for real for like a year.
Exactly, and then we're gonna develop a lot slower. I feel, even though we're all playing online, and we're gonna develop all our tech slower. And I don't know. I feel like having all these events online is overtly negative compared to having them offline. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like it brings many positives to the table to have online tournaments. I know Alex Vi has been calling it the future for years, that we have to transition to the online format so we can be more inclusive to more players. But at the same time, we just don't have the infrastructure for it right now. But I feel like this is forcing the hand at all the developers, especially because 2021 is going to be a big year for PlayStation 5 to come out. So yeah. I know a pandemic is not going to be foreseen in the future, they're not preparing for a next pandemic, but now they see it happen. They saw it happen. So
yeah, I think this is you bring up a really good point about forcing developers' hands, because I mean, you're slowly starting to see a lot of FGC figureheads going, hey, let's stream some Call of Duty. Let's stream some other games that I can actually play online. Mm-hmm. And even Capcom has been much more proactive. I mean, that started before the COVID situation really hit the entire world. But Capcom's been very proactive about pushing updates to their netcode and receiving feedback about it. Guilty Gear just announced they're going to be doing rollback netcode, and I think if anything, to try to find a positive out of the situation from the FGC perspective, maybe this stress will cause a shift in priorities for development and make them realize that if you do not have a proper online netcode and a proper online system to encourage people to play your game, people will never play your game.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally locked in their house and trying to find something else to do besides play the game online.
Right.
That's a pretty
they're
bad
actively
sign.
Searching for other means of entertainment because people feel like online fighting games are so bad, even though they love the games, they can't enjoy them.
Yeah.
But I still think online tournaments are still a good thing to have. I participated in NLBC online this last Wednesday, and it was fun to compete again. I hadn't been to a tournament or competed since Frosty Faustings in January. And got a kick out of it. It was cool, and I do think it allows people, even with normal circumstances, people who can't travel or people who just don't have the funds or means to do that. I do think it gives them a shot to get their name out there. And I think for people who are very used to the offline setting, it's very easy for them to brush off online tournaments. But for people who never got a chance to travel and never got a chance to be a part of the FGC and actively participate, I think that's a big deal to people like that. So there is some value in it, I think, beyond just allowing people to compete. It gives access to people who wouldn't be able to partake otherwise.
Yeah, losing the local events and losing like major and regional tournaments that we have offline is a huge deal. But I think online tournaments and online stuff and people being able to stream their matches and stuff while they play and have more content because of it is definitely a small win in the sense that, you know, we're all trapped inside anyway. So I think it's a good thing that we at least have it. It definitely is not as great or as favorable as all of us just being able to travel around the world without a pandemic existing. And my wallet definitely agrees with that, considering that, you know, I mean, someone like me or a lot of people who are going to these events and tournaments, if you're a professional player, if you're someone who produces streams, if you're a commentator, if you're a tournament organizer, if you're a bracket runner, if you're someone who has artist allies at these events, if you're someone who consults or you help create brackets, if you're any of those job titles, then you just watched a majority or a decent amount of your income probably for the entire year disappear. Right? Like it's just gone. And all these professional players, I'm sure, like imagine if in 3 or 4 months somebody has like a contract coming up for their, you know, sponsorship or something, and the person's like, well, you haven't been able to go anywhere and you won't be able to go anywhere for a year, so there's no reason to re-sign you later. Like, you know, it creates that interesting viewpoint of like, what is the value of a lot of people if these kinds of things don't happen. And I think that maybe the online tournaments and online events and streaming and stuff can help supplement some of the issues people will come across with, you know, not being able to go anywhere and compete and stuff, which I think is definitely a bummer, but you know, you got to make the best of what we have, I guess, right? Even if the netcode is tough.
I do agree that online tournaments usually have consistent results of still the top players winning. So that's why when I thought about it, when they announced like NCR getting canceled, I don't know if they could have ran it online for the points, but I think there will be a lot of backlash to that. I think there's too many people that aren't ready for that change. So they'd rather see it completely canceled and have no pro tour at all rather than have it be online. I feel like people would be like, why are people getting so many points and so many opportunities in the online realm? But if it's all we have, then that is our FGC for right now.
Yeah, and I suspect like you can't have the finals if you can't do it offline, right? Like how can anybody travel there? How can you gather up all these people in one place? Like I don't suspect that and if the events keep getting canceled at some point, right, the entire tour or most of the tours will probably not happen. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain amount of like cancellations that force that kind of, you know, thought. And I think that'll come up soon. We'll see with like the big summer of events coming up soon, right? Like on the horizon, you have to suspect that Combo Breaker, CEO, and Evo are like the big three in the US that we're all waiting to see, like when are they going to get canceled or like what's going to happen there. And even if they do happen, which I don't suspect they will, even if they do happen, then nobody's going to want to go. Right? Like it's one of those situations where like, would you guys even want to go to an offline event if it was going to happen 2 months from now when things are like, none of us are, you know, nobody's going to go.
Evo would be, the scale of Evo this soon, because it's not going to say it did die down a couple weeks, a month before Evo occurs and, you know, all these official orders to quarantine end. I wouldn't trust that.
No.
Yeah. I still think the responsible thing would be to lay low for a couple extra months until we see 0 cases.
And that's not going to be for a very, very long time.
No, not for a
very long time. They just released a statement this morning saying that we hit over 700K cases in the US and it's only getting worse.
Yeah, like what's funny is, or what's interesting, I guess, is I thought we were going to hit 500,000 by the end of this week, so Sunday today, and it happened on Thursday, I think. It is the 25th or something, I think, or 26th we hit 500K. And now there's 700,000, so it'll be 1 million before the end of.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it'll be 1 million before probably halfway through next week or something. Is how fast it's growing. I mean, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of cases very soon. So you know, people, you're gonna be stuck inside for a while.
Right. And the other point you brought up about you can't do like the majors or the finals online. It's pretty interesting how online tournaments are definitely a supplemental thing we have right now to hold us over, and they allow people who can't normally travel to get some exposure and get out there. But you can't. You would think that the online tournament format would allow the scale of tournaments to grow, but actually it's the opposite. I don't think there's any way you could have a sustainable online major because it's going to be so region dependent. Online locals make perfect sense to me, and you have them all region locked, but you cannot have international competition with the current state of the infrastructure and netcode. You can't have coast to coast in the United States. Like there's just no way you can replicate a major event online right now with most games in the infrastructure. So the scale is actually going to have to be reduced. And I would hope that more tournaments for online pop up for certain regions, and that each region has their own events to run, but you're not going to have any way to connect the regions right now, which is pretty ironic considering what the internet is.
Yeah.
That's why I was scared, because I never said it on social media or anything. I was like, these tournaments should have top 8 or play up to top 8 online, and then have the top 8 be offline, because social gatherings less than 10 are allowed. So, but like, that was like my stupid idea at the time. But then I was like,
yeah, it's way worse. And not only that, you have 8 people in there. You got to have one person run the stream. Like you're gonna hit 10 pretty quick.
Get a
one
private
person
jet for each person to keep them isolated. It's just not gonna work.
Yeah, you have to stretch out the top 8 for like weeks at a time. Like we'll have these 2 fight this week. Next week we'll have the other 2. It's like a full-on fight card, right?
Yeah,
that'd be pretty interesting. But obviously that's gonna be stretched out for way too long.
Yeah, it's definitely forcing us to be a little creative with what we do, right? I mean, that's why we see WNF and LBC online, we see the Ronin Rumble online, we see like the online Japanese events and like events all over the world. People are transitioning to online, and as you mentioned, because of the state of the netcode, people are doing regional stuff, right? Because, you know, connecting people, an event like NCR or an event like Combo Breaker, CEO, Evo, whatever, those events bring people from all over the world together to play fighting games. But in our case now, with how everything is, that can't happen, right? I mean, if the netcode is good, you'll have people playing, you know, within the US or on East Coast US to Europe or something like that, right? I mean, those things can happen even if the netcode's great, but international competition with people from all over the world on the scale of something like Evo is not going to happen online. So yeah, I mean, it sort of, you know, condenses us in that way.
Yeah. And I think we're all kind of focused on the player perspective and the tournament perspective of how we're going to handle this. And I think we'll make it through okay.
Yeah.
As far as players are going, but it's the rest of the smaller pieces of the ecosystem that I think are getting hit the hardest. The TOs, the photographers, the bracket runners, the vendors at the events. It's the people that you kind of build up the whole tournament experience. You can't do online for any of that. I mean, You can have an online store, but that's not the point, right? You can't replicate the event. So that's, to me, is the big concern, is how much of this ecosystem will be remaining when we can finally have another offline gathering. Will it be the same? Maybe not. What's
from my discussions with tournament organizers and commentators and like a lot of people, if TOs, if their events get canceled, they might be okay for the future, but it's obviously still worrisome for them, right? Because they've invested money in an event that's going to happen this year, even if it cancels and stuff like that. But you know, streamers and bracket runners and production staff and commentators, I feel like most of them are not in a place where they can suitably create income at home that is, you know, they can't replicate the income you make from events. And think about, like, if you're someone who streams tournaments, you have a schedule for the year. You know, oh, I'm going to stream, you know, Final Round. I'm going to stream Combo Breaker, CEO, Evo. You know, I have 10, 15, 20 gigs lined up that are for sures for the year. All of those events are gone, right? Yeah. So, I mean, even in my case, I feel like of all the commentators in fighting games, I'm uniquely the most prepared for something like this, right? Because of how often I stream. And I suspect at minimum, I lose 25% of my income. At minimum from event cancellations, right? 25% seems like a pretty low number to me. So, like, and I'll be okay. That's the thing, right? But I think I'm probably uniquely prepared. So you can imagine almost everybody else's kind of situation where all these other people, like if you're a bracket runner, like you don't have, like, what is your stream that you're doing, or what is your other income, right? If you work in production and you're not one of the big streamers who streams all the time on like something like Spooky or Vae, right? If you're one of the other streamers and you stream a local or regional and you do 10 national events a year, where's that additional income coming, right? You have to have some kind of side job that hopefully is not canceled during all of this. You have to have something else that you're creating revenue from. So it's definitely put a lot of people, I think, in a pretty bad spot. And even if the events don't happen this year and they come back next year, they'll probably come back at a reduced scale. And even then, how many people are going to be able to not make income for a year, come back next year and be like, hey guys, I'm back. Let's do this awesome fighting game stuff again. Like, you know, it's definitely pretty worrisome. I think for the global economy and a lot of people out there, but in our scene in particular, I think it could be pretty devastating.
And I can see why you guys, or not you guys, like not you, but like all of these people are not prepared for something like this. Like the hospitals aren't prepared. Like think about the world view. Just even like the hospital that I work for right now is not busy because people are scared of the coronavirus. They don't want to get the coronavirus at the hospital. But you know, the ones in New York aren't prepared and they have all these cases already and it spreads so much faster. It's going to happen in California. They're like predicting that they're trying to get everyone to have the coronavirus because it's that easily spread. We can't do what Wuhan did to stop the virus. They can't isolate it. They can't like have us locked down or have like a real ass Chinese lockdown in their house that Wuhan did. And then they had 5 days with no new cases. That's just not going to happen in the U.S. It's against, the rights that we have as people that we.
I just don't think people will do it. Like, even if everybody's like, this is a very good idea, stay inside. People are like, no, I'm going to go get ice cream.
I mean, the way they reopened that 2-month lockdown was by showing. Was by like they enforced it differently. They enforced it differently than us. We wouldn't enforce it the way that they enforced it. But in reality, we should be staying home, but people still aren't doing it. So everyone's going to get the coronavirus in some way, shape, or form. Whether you're like extremely sick, extremely symptomatic, or have no symptoms at all. The reason we're doing the social distancing is to like slow it down so the hospitals can handle people that are really sick, heal them, and then more people are going to have it, and the hospitals are going to heal that.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen in 2 months before Combo Breaker happens, or in 3 months before CEO happens, or in 4 months before Evo happens. It's going to take a long ass time in different time periods in the entire world.
Yeah.
So,
and while everybody in the world is not working and staying home, I mean, some people can work from home. Like, me and my 2 roommates, all 3 of us have been working from home, and we haven't been super affected by it. But that's not the case for everybody, right? Like, like my dad, for instance, he works at job sites, right? He's like, he does like planning and engineer work at job sites in person. I don't know how much or if he's going to be able to work. And he's also in like an age group where like this could affect him pretty drastically. So like people like that, or anybody who works in like a restaurant, or anybody that works in something that requires physical attention or like being near people, like the chances of you getting sick are high. And also the chances that your job just no longer exists for a while, or like won't happen if it's like a non-essential business, is decently high. And so like it's gonna have a big impact on a lot of people, not just our community, right? Like our community it'll have a big impact, and that's what we were focusing on. But yeah, it's gonna have a big impact for everybody, which is definitely you'll see it soon enough if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah.
Pandemics,
and with that,
man.
So we've seen a lot of cancellations, and overall just people just trying to pick themselves up after all this. In terms of the FGC side of things, a lot of us have been resorting to streaming. Brian, Sajam, you guys are prime examples of that, and a lot of us players have been trying to do so as well. And it's a good time to bring this up as well. Brian actually tweeted something about going into content creation and what the FGC should be doing to try to thrive, especially in times like these. In terms of getting into streaming, or at least developing the skill set of expanding your brand, getting yourself known out here, especially when we have nothing really much else to do, right? I don't know if I could pull up the tweet or not. Let me just.
Yeah, I mean, essentially in this time, there's nothing but time to check out people doing 5 hours of learning Infinite, right? We got all the time in the world to watch us learn Infinites and play games. And like, there's a lot of stuff I think a lot of people more than ever are trying to create. And
you guys have definitely started another epidemic, by the way, of the Marvel 2 resurgence. I would say.
I really wish I could have started the wave and then did my stream after, because I see Sajam's stream number for doing the Infinite was about 30 times as much as mine. I had like 100 MBC2 boomers yelling at me for being such a scrub for not being able to do the Infinite for a game I've never played before.
Yep.
And then the YouTube video and the tweet really took off. But man, my stream experience of the actual first initial run was pretty rough, man.
Notice I wasn't first. I waited. I was like, I'll let him do it first. That's content creation tips right there. You know what I mean?
That is actually that's very true. You want good ideas from other people, which is what I've been doing. I've been watching a ton of YouTube and just trying to gather ideas from the rest of YouTube. And I kind of made those tweets about what does content creation mean in the scope of the traditional FGC, because I feel like so many people pigeonhole what could be FGC content into being, here's some tournament footage, here's some tech, here's some gameplay, here's a match analysis. It's all based around this competitive sphere, but content could be so many different things. And what actually appeals to the vast majority of people is not anything about serious gameplay. It's about telling a story. If you can tell a story about a serious tournament match, then it will appeal to people beyond those who fully are invested in the FGC. If you can make somebody laugh or entertain somebody with your gameplay, then that's more valuable in a lot of ways than just the pure gameplay. So I think people in the FGC should really take this time to look at what other scenes are doing, because other scenes just destroy us in terms of producing things on YouTube, producing things on Twitch, even their memes on Twitter.
Yeah.
I just feel like the FGC is just not as online as other scenes. And I think it's because we're older. It's a huge part of it. We're not as in tune with what the internet culture is like, I think, for producing content.
Yeah.
But if you look at Smash, I like to watch a lot of Melee and Smash Ultimate content. They're so good at producing content. Not just the players. The top players are killing it on Twitch and YouTube because they're editing, their concepts for how they cut down videos into being like, here's me playing with this one character that you rarely see me play, and I'm going to troll people online with it because they're good and they're using a character you don't see. Like, that's a story that they're telling right there. It's not, here's my highlight of my stream for me playing. And I'm going to do this every single day for the rest of my life.
It's like an hour and 15-minute uncut video of them, like your ranked matches, just like chunked onto YouTube, and it's like no one's going to want to watch that, right?
Right. And so those are the good players.
Slapping an intro and an outro to it, really.
Right, right. And those are just the good players. So the other point that was constantly brought up is I'm not a good enough player to produce content. There's so many players that I watch for Smash content that I've never seen them play. They just talk about the game, or they talk about interesting tidbits. They frame mechanics in such a way where I'm drawn in and invested into the story of like, here's how a wave dash works. And they make it a beautiful video for me to watch. I don't even play Smash. I haven't played Melee since I was 11. So I watched that and I didn't know how it worked. You could take that with so many things of traditional fighting games. Here's how a jump cancel command grab works. You could turn that into a story, into a video masterpiece, and have people who have never played Street Fighter V or any kind of game watch that and enjoy it. But people seem to be so focused on just skill or focused on being a player that there's not a huge amount of people trying to corner these other aspects of the creation game in the FGC.
The thing is, too, is that people don't realize that the skills that are required to make content are skills, much like learning a fighting game, right? Like if I'm spending all this time learning how to be good at a fighting game, you could be spending all this time learning to video edit and practicing narration and practicing, building stories and building videos and doing research. Like, what do you think? I had this interview on my podcast with Gerald, and Gerald's obviously someone who, in terms of fighting games, there's very few people who make stuff that is as widely seen as him, right? And his stuff is all general. It's about thoughts. It uses tons of analogies and metaphors that show like, this is baseball and this is fighting games. This is, combat sports and it's very general. Not a lot of it is very detailed about fighting games, and it performs incredibly well, right? If you think about the people whose content are biggest in fighting games, they're not people who are only high-level players playing online all the time, right? There are a few, but for most cases, it's not. It's people who have diversified, who have made lots of interesting content for games, and people like Max who've made these really fun. Still, to this day, nothing in fighting games has been created in terms of tutorials or teaching or educating that is as well done as the Assist Me stuff he did, right? And that is not super high-level stuff anyway. It's just, these basic character tutorials, but done to the max level of production, right? And that's the thing about content that people don't realize is that you got to just do stuff that is your specialty and what you're interested in creating, and it has nothing to do with your skill set necessarily as a player. It's about how much time and effort you put into learning skills that will help you, like editing and making sure that the idea you have is tight and conceptually good for a video and stuff like that. People have brought up, like in the chat, like JM Croft's videos where he does like these just educational videos about why is Moment 37 so interesting, or why is this Kane Blue River versus F-Champ rivalry so fascinating, or whatever it is. That stuff always performs extremely well, right? It's not just about, oh, I'm not good enough to play online and teach people. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, there's like 100 people that are really great players that don't have the skills you might have in producing content, right? Which is something you have to think about as well.
Mm-hmm. And you can get gimmicky with it too. Like there's so many gimmicky YouTube ideas that work so well, and that's something that I've been watching too. Is like one of the ideas that I had was, let me just go to random streams, challenge them to a set, and if they beat me, give them some subs, right? Mm-hmm. And it involves other people. It creates some kind of stakes where they have nothing to lose, but they can gain something. and then people get to get hype if they win and win something, right? I invested a little bit of money into that, and that was one of my better performing videos of me just like gifting subs to people who can beat me and start a challenge. So if you can just find a small little concept of doing something and think the idea through and then produce it, people will want to watch that. But I think people just need to watch more YouTube, because the ideas
there's a lot of good
there.
ideas.
High stakes are doing medium stakes for things that don't involve a lot of skill gets people hype. So you can create some kind of competitive situation where it's not, make it more like a party game. For instance, streaming the Iron Man Infinite, I made like a speedrun format, so it became a challenge. Potentially, maybe we could do like two streamers try to speedrun a combo challenge, and whoever wins gives the other guy like 20 subs. I don't know, something stupid, right? And then it's something that it's not a direct competition. It is a competition, but it's not like a traditional fighting game. Am I better than you at the game or not? It's kind of more gimmicky, and that gets people hyped for the stakes. So there's other ways to frame things just to get people involved and interested in the world of fighting games without it being pure competitive gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, what you bring up right now is interesting. I saw someone in the chat saying, again, nobody watches like mid to low level players on stream or something like that. People always watch the top level players, right? I saw someone say that in the chat again. I mean, dude, people are watching this stream right now. There is no gameplay on this stream in terms of fighting games. It's just 4 people talking. There's no super top level high strategy. Guess what? The stream, 2 streams behind us on Twitch right now is Infectious. Infectious is way back there. He's not nearly, and the point is not that his viewership is bad.
Evo champion.
Like yeah, the Evo champion. The point is that obviously, you don't have to be the highest level player to produce content that people will watch and check out. The fact is, the people who produce the best content and have the most viewership in fighting games are not the top level players. In fact, people like Maximilian, people like Core Gaming, people even like Smug. I know Smug is obviously in Capcom Cup and he's a very good player, but like the stuff that he does is like the maximum level of the ranked stream that you can do, right? Stuff like Desk. Think about, nobody has ever seen Desk play in a tournament, and think about the combo videos and stuff that he creates that are so cool and people really love and they find so interesting. Think about stuff like what Jam Crofts has produced, which has way more viewership than any of the top level players stuff that they're producing out there, right? Like, I mean, dude, yeah, like Nihongo Gamer, that's another good example. Like so many people, Coefficient, so many people who produce stuff all the time that like is not related to the competitive scene or not related to high level gameplay or tutorials or stuff like that. And it produces, it does extremely well all the time. You don't have to be a top level player for this stuff to really hit. Yeah, like even in, you think about the top Tekken creators, right? Like Eris, not a top level player all the time, but he does a lot of other stuff and he's diversified. But even stuff like Main Man or like Blasted Salami or like, even Rip, right? Rip used to be like one of the best players, but now he produces a lot of stuff. It's not people who are like, it's not like the best creators out there. It's like, all right, it's Knee and Arslan and, it's like these players. It's like all the top level best players in the world all the time. No, right? It's people who have honed their skills as creators and create stuff that's very interesting. And that's so obvious, but people will always be like, no, I'm not good enough to do it. The problem is, it's not that you're not good enough at fighting games. It's that you're not good enough at making content. That is the real skill you haven't honed. Not fighting games, content creation, which is its own skill and takes time and effort to get good at.
I think it's because a lot of people, myself included, back in the day, we just hold so dear and so close our ego that we want to be the best at Street Fighter or we want to be the best at the fighting game, rather than we can't be spending our time making content over practicing the fighting game. And I feel like that's a hump that a lot of the players have. Like they cannot get over it. They cannot give up this time because they're already behind. Even the mid-level players that stream on Twitch, the Ultra Diamonds, their dream, I'm not going to say their dream, their goal is probably to be one of the best Street Fighter players rather than to be having thousands of viewers. And
then why are they streaming?
It's just a hump.
Sounds like they're not being focused.
Yeah, they're not being focused. Yeah, exactly.
You can do both. Like, so people talk. Yeah, they do talk about. I'm not good enough to get viewers on Twitch, but all I'm doing on Twitch is streaming myself playing ranked and practicing while speaking like once every 3 minutes, going, "Huh, wow, what?" Like, obviously you're just being bad at everything at once. If you want to get an audience for playing a competitive game without being naturally entertaining or trying to be entertaining or having some kind of interesting concept, you have to be good. That's because that's the only thing left to carry your content is you being good at the game. So, I mean, like when I started streaming, I made an effort to try to talk to the stream, to try to continuously, like I thought about it a little bit. I was like, okay, like I think I'm decent at Street Fighter 4 when I started, but I'm not the best. I want to stream myself practicing, but it's going to be boring if I don't at least try to interact. And what's the point of streaming if I don't try to make this an interactive occasion, right? So I would talk with nobody in my chat, and then when someone finally was in my chat, I was like, holy shit, somebody, I yelled into the void long enough that the void spoke back, and it was a guy posting ASCII artwork of Mario pooping or something. You know, it wasn't even a human, it was a bot. And I was like, holy shit. And so I kept going with it. But I think a lot of people don't make that effort, and then they're also not great at the game. It's just, you got to choose one. Like, you can stream yourself practicing, but don't expect people to watch you if you're not entertaining and you're not good, because you're not producing good content. Or you can try to produce good content and maybe sacrifice some of your practice time, or you isolate them to two separate realms and you say, I'm going to practice off stream, but when I want to stream or produce a YouTube video, I'm going to make an interesting concept and produce good content. And I'm going to prioritize my time for two separate things. I'm going to work on both at the same time, because that's where kind of I am at this point. Is I set time for practice, and I can stream myself practicing, and it does okay. And then I'll have times where I purposely do something more gimmicky or something that's more focused on entertainment, and I segregate my time in that way, and I plan to prioritize. But you have to do one or the other, or try to mix them both together. But if you do that without thinking it through, it's not going to be good for anybody.
I think the point about thinking about your content is so important, because I was creating stuff for a long time and it was performing well, but the time when I got the big boost in content creation and people really checking out my stuff was when I really started thinking much more about the stuff I was creating. Like, my hands were broken, right? I literally could not play a video game on Twitch for 3.5 months, right? So I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? So I literally sat there and thought about it, and for 3.5 months could not play a video game on Twitch, and my channel grew tremendously because of it, because I had to sit there and put in a ton of time and effort into producing stuff that people would watch that had no gameplay involved. So I really had to sit there and think, how do I create the best stuff possible? And it took extra effort out of me, and that improved the stuff I was creating so much. And that was like a forced way for me to think about what I was creating. But you can do that without having your hands break, actually, which is good news for everybody out there. Don't break your hands to create better content. You can actually just sit there and think, what can I do that is interesting to me and that I can do to make my stream, unique, or make the content that I create interesting and fascinating to people. And a lot of it is like, you should always create things you want. And you should always create things that you're interested in, because naturally that thing will be better, right? So, you don't have to force yourself to create if you're not interested in it. But if you do want to make stuff and you're wondering, why is my stuff not viewed more? Why is my stuff not performing better? You have to put a lot of effort and thought into creating something unique and interesting to what you want to do. And I see people saying stuff like, Max and Aris, they're so big, but they're not really fighting game people. And it's like, well, they are, and they were, and that's where they started. And, they've pivoted and transitioned into other kinds of content since then. But like all of us have, right? You don't just do the same thing over and over and over. Everybody pivots and does different things all the time. It's why you see stuff like Hook and God streams Dragon Ball, right? And then switches to Bloodborne and dies miserably, or switches to Grand Theft Auto, or switches to, other games too. On Twitch, it's not just about only grinding that one specific thing. He creates a field of stuff for people to watch, so they don't just burn out watching the same thing over and over. It's important to diversify, not only in your interest in stuff, but in the content you create as well. Like, you don't want to just do the same thing over and over. My match analysis was really popular for a long time. People got burnt out on it. I got burnt out on it. There's too much of it. There's hundreds and hundreds of hours of the same shit. I had to do something else eventually. Even if that content was good and people liked it, you have to do something else. You have to switch it up and try other things, right?
Yeah, and if you've built that community, they're just going to stick with you anyway, right? They're going to watch you for something that's interesting to them for a good amount of time. And once you have that audience, then you're going to be like, all right, well, I'm going to try to make this transition. And most of the time it just works because of how consistent you are, right? You set yourself a schedule, you have something very entertaining, and that community just decides to stick for you rather than the content for most of the time. I see people in the chat talk about that all the time. Even if they're joking, oh, we're here for Sajam's hairs. No, that's that might sometimes be true. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say somewhat, because it depends on what you're producing, right? So
absolutely,
if you are, and I want to kind of bring up this point. So Sajam's saying his audience grew while he was just doing, not playing any gameplay. And Smug has cornered the YouTube game and is the biggest Street Fighter 5 like traditional ranked streamer, right? Okay, not everyone has like the gift of gab that Sajam has. Not everyone has the entertainment value that Smug has, right? Not everyone can be that. That's something that you kind of just naturally have and work on. But that's not necessarily a skill set that you might have. So don't try to be those people.
That is good advice.
And also, Hook Gang God, he's very entertaining because he sits there smoking people, and then he goes, "That's OD," and it's hilarious, right?
I really appreciate you, fellas. Thanks very much for the support.
He doesn't seem to be doing much, but what he does is so entertaining. Like, he just has a naturally chill personality and is very entertaining to watch. So people watch him, even when he goes over to play Bloodborne. If I were to go and stream a random game, I would not get that many viewers because I have some level of loyalty because of my personality. But I know I'm going to be honest. I know that these viewers ain't loyal. If I ain't streaming Street Fighter 5, they're not going to watch me, and that's okay. I respect that. They have they get to choose whatever they find entertaining, and I need to recognize that as a content creator, create content that it can appeal to my audience, and also not drive me insane. So if I'm going to do something that's not traditional for Street Fighter 5, I'm going to be focused on an entertaining concept or something that will draw people in and involve the community that I'm in. If it's not me just playing Balrog on ranked, right? Because there's going to be some people who only want to see that from me because they don't give a shit about me as a person, which is totally fair. Like, I'm just a random guy on the internet. So I think people need to really recognize that you cannot be these other content creators you see. And if you're not naturally entertaining or are good at just sitting there and talking, you need to figure out unique concepts. You need to figure out some kind of gimmick. You need to find out a way to entertain the people that will potentially tune in to what you're doing. And a good channel that I've been watching on YouTube, and I've been stealing his ideas, is Ludwig. He started off like as a Smash personality and is just like huge on Twitch now, just massive on Twitch and YouTube. And he also is a very good presenter, very good at speaking into the camera and guiding the audience through a story. But beyond that, he has very tight, boiled down, interesting concepts for each video.
Always.
He says what we're going to do. He does it, and it's entertaining. And what he does is entertaining. So if you go through his YouTube channel, he creates content out of nothing. He flips a coin and it becomes like the most hype thing of the whole video, right? So I've been seeing that. I'm like, you could do this with fighting games. You can bring this into some kind of genre that you love and enjoy, create a concept and execute it and put it up on YouTube and entertain people, even if you're dog shit at the game. It doesn't matter. So you just need to recognize your strengths and what you're going to work on, and don't pretend that you can just carry a show on your own, because you probably can't.
The other thing, too, that you bring up about people being entertaining and stuff is, for someone like me and Smug, and I'm sure lots of other people, it takes lots of time, commitment, and effort to even build those skills, right? Like, even from, if you should go on click on my YouTube, somebody later on when you're watching this, or if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, and look at like the oldest videos on my channel and hear the difference in the human being that was speaking when I was in high school, creating this stuff as like a hobby, versus now it's my job. It's very different, and you should understand that when you create, in the beginning, it will suck. The hardest part is just starting, creating something. You have to know it's going to be bad, and then improving it from there. As long as you start and you create something you're interested in, it will get better after you do it time and time again. But when I first started making tutorials and videos and talking on YouTube, it was horrible. It was awful. But it was a start. And at the time, it performed well because just to this, even then, nobody was doing it. And still to this day, no one's really doing it, to be honest. But it will really like help you improve over time and time again. And yeah, someone brought it up. When you first make a video, someone's going to say, boo, this sucks. I hate you. This is awful. And you're just going to be like, yep, my life is miserable. I have to read all this dog shit comment. And then you make something else. And that's just how it goes. That's the process. That's what you have to do to improve it. Most people don't just start off and they're fantastic at what they do. We don't all wake up and we're Tasty Steve with the charisma of 10,000 burning suns. Like, it's just not all of us, right? Like, in the energy levels of, just a superhuman. Like, that's not everybody. You really have to think about what you want to do, what you're interested in creating, and improving from there.
Right.
I think,
go ahead.
It's a lot about grabbing the brass ring too. About the content creation part is when you get grabbing the brass ring, it's like you win the tournament and you gain a little bit of popularity. People may watch you because they like your Street Fighter skill, but you have to earn like friendship from every person that watches you, like kind of like make them feel a certain way about you in terms of liking you enough to watch your stream outside of what they came there first for. So like I see certain, when I watch like Steven stream or when I watch Brian stream, I see no matter what they're streaming, there's certain regulars there that watch them no matter what they stream. Like whether they stream Street Fighter 5 match analysis, whether they stream Cuphead, it doesn't matter. There are regulars there that watch every time.
Yeah.
And to make content is to like, even if you just talk to these like people on your stream, the numbers grow, and the numbers will grow faster if you have people that would watch you every time, no matter what you do. So personability, I think, is a big factor in terms of just making content, and then you can like grasp ideas from there, like bring your friends in, make them personable, make content with your friends, and make them feel like they're welcome into your stream rather than just you're some big shot guy that won Evo, because that's not enough.
Yeah, but that's also if you're going with the personality route. So I also just want to make sure people understand that I think everyone thinks that that's the only way to go about it.
Yeah.
Which is not the case. That might be the best way for doing Twitch, because Twitch, unless you're getting really creative with it, is going to be a lot of just one person carrying the show. But you could definitely get creative with it. There could be no mic, no webcam, and you have a perfectly awesome stream that entertains people, right? That's definitely a potential. If you go more like with YouTube, there's so many other ways to do that without being entertaining. Like presenting an interesting idea and making an interesting video has nothing to do with being personable or likable or charismatic at all. It's very little correlation. And in fact, like when I do YouTube, I find that my charisma and personality is so dog shit that I have to edit nonstop, right? Like Sage Jam's YouTube videos, there's very few cuts and very few editing because he knows how to formulate a sentence without going, you know, he has excelled at those skill sets. I don't. So I edit nonstop to take my 2-hour stream, which is completely nonsensical and indigestible to anyone coming by out of nowhere. And I say, what is the story here? What am I actually trying to get across in a reasonable amount of time? And how do I make this flow together to tell this story? How did I take that 5-hour Iron Man Infinite video and cut it down to like 18 minutes where there's an arc, a progression, and you feel my own pain and anguish, and then you root for my success in the end? Like I really sat there and tried to think about how can I tell this story? How can I hook you in the beginning with what's going to happen? How can I then deliver on that and make it entertaining on the way through? And that takes mostly editing. That had very little to do with how I was entertaining people during the stream, because that stream got very little viewers, much less than my normal Street Fighter 5 streams. But the YouTube video and the tweets about it and the discussion is bigger than anything I've done in a long time.
Yeah.
Right? So, I agree with you that there's definitely a lot to gain from striking when the iron's hot. If you're like a player trying to grow in this space, being a personality is kind of like the next step, I think, that makes the most sense. You already playing. If you can find a way to stream and be presentable, you can get people to like you and support you in other realms. But if you're not already in that spot where you're a professional player and getting followers from your competitive success, you can do other routes that have nothing to do with your live personality and might require scripting and recording stuff and editing and writing versus your actual live personality.
Fighting game players are allergic to scripts. For some reason, it is impossible for them to film YouTube videos or tutorials that's not like, hey, what up, guys? Today I'm going to teach you how this works. Let me go. Oh, I'm in the wrong training mode menu. Let me go back. Let me go to character select, pick the right characters. My bad. All right, so what I want to show. No, I messed up the recording. Let me try again. Bro, why the fuck is any of this in the video? First of all, you should have a script and know exactly what you want to say. And when you write a script, it should be the script for what's on the screen, but also what's going to be happening with what you're saying as well. When I started on YouTube, I had scripts. I had things that I wanted to hit. I had things I wanted to talk about. I never was just like, let me create and do this all live all the time, right? That was never the goal. Now it's different. I've done so many live events and I stream so often that instead of having a script for everything I want to say, I have talking points written out. So when I do my weekly streams, right, Monday through Friday, I always do the same kind of streams. And the first hour, 45 minutes to an hour and a half is a talk show, essentially. It's like a monologue on a talk show. And I always have a list of topics, and for each topic I want to say, I have like bullet points that I need to hit for each thing. I have a visual plan for what I'm going to want to say, and usually there's some kind of joke or transition into the next thing. It's like, and that's for every day. That's the kind of script that I have for a stream. And if you don't have a script for a YouTube video, It is unbelievable. I can't believe how dog shit these tutorials I watch on YouTube are, where they don't even have a script or like there's no editing of all this stuff. Like if you're going to do something live, even if like, let's say you're going to do something like the old character breakdowns I did, which were like 5 to 10 minutes of me teaching a character, I had a script on the screen. And if I fucked up during any of it, I would redo it like 9 times in a row until I had the perfect one take that I was extremely happy with, and I would put that out, and that would take time. But if you don't have any script, no plan, your tutorials they don't make any sense, or your videos, they don't have a point to them, or they're not structured, I can tell when I'm watching it. It doesn't take an expert eye to just be like, well, why did he not just cut this part out? Or why did he not just, I don't understand why this is all in the video. It doesn't make any sense. It's not going to make me want to learn from you or continue to watch your stuff. You have to cut out the stuff that's not important. And if the video is 40 minutes long, but it's full of important stuff, I'll watch it. But if it's 5 minutes long and it's like, dude, this could have been done in 30 seconds, I'm not going to watch it. It doesn't matter to me about the length. It's how well it's put together.
I know you and Gerald talked about that as well. Gerald was talking about he doesn't really pay attention to how long his videos are. As long as it's full of information that is digestible and important, then he's going to leave it for as long as possible, or as long as he made it, right, intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question for Brian and Steven.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you guys are bigger figureheads in the FGC. Not everyone is making content, and they're going to start off with 0 viewers. Would you say if people made a well-informed YouTube video with a script that's well done and they added you on Twitter, would you give it a chance to watch, or would you not even give it light of day? Because there's a lot of people that are not.
I watch a lot of stuff that I get tagged in.
Me too.
Yeah. And then because they don't know how to grow otherwise, they would just post it on YouTube, and it might be like one of the most informative videos of all time.
That's actually how I started.
Grow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was making Street Fighter 4. So I was doing the stream thing, and I also bought a crappy mic and mixer, and I was making Street Fighter 4 Balrog tutorial videos called Bite-Sized Balrog, and I had several episodes where I'd cover one specific tool, and I finally got to the shimmy and how to do shimmy with Balrog, and I tagged Gutex in it because he's the guy who made the shimmy. And, he retweeted it, and he even quote tweeted it, said, oh, check it out. He actually promoted it for me. And yeah, it got me a bunch more views on that video than I definitely would have had otherwise. So when starting out, focus on making good content first. Don't spam people, because that will get you blocked fast or ignored.
Real quick.
But if you have a genuine content creation that is relevant to somebody and you think they might be interested in, and you feel like they can help promote it, and it's from a genuine, not like a leech kind of mentality. I don't know. Like if it's genuine, like, hey, I think you might like this. If you do, it would be great if you shared it. Like if it's genuine, people can feel that. If it's spam, people can feel that. You're gonna have to have some level of emotional intelligence with regards to that. I don't have a formula for you, but that's definitely a way to go about getting started. But make the content good first. Make an effort and keep putting it out there and keep revising on that.
Make a few, and then once there's one you're very happy with, like you made some, and then you hit the shimmy, and you're like, now's the time, right? You've practiced it a few times, you've got something good to show. That's what I did too. Like a lot of my stuff, I was making it, and it was all kind of okay. It wasn't, I finally hit something that I was happy with, one of my tutorials that I was happy with. And there was, at the time, there's SRK forums, which is where I posted it on there. And I was like, hey guys, I've got this tutorial I'm happy with. Yeah, you got to do a Hail Mary for the SRK forum. Then at the time, there was also, like, you could submit a tip on SRK and like event hubs, right? So that was something that was popular too. But then also when Injustice came out, I created like a Nightwing tutorial that I was happy with. And I tweeted it to James and David because they were like, hey, we're gonna look at tutorials or content for Injustice on our channel, right? And they showed it off on there, and it got viewership because of that. And then there was stuff like they would do SRK would do the roundups of like tech that have come in for a game, and they would post my stuff all the time. And in the beginning, I sent it in like once or twice, and then after that, they just knew to go and look at my stuff, right? You just need to take one thing that you're proud of, get it to the right people to look at, and then after that, other people will automatically, they're like, oh, this person made that other thing that I like, I should go check out what new stuff they're doing. Oh, this person is, made this now, I should go take a look. So yeah, if it's something that's relevant to the interest of someone you're doing it in, you should, maybe think about sending it if it's something that you're proud of. But if I see the where literally 280 characters are ats of fighting game members all the way down, written in like, you know, it's just etched into the walls, and it's like 4 tweets of you adding every human you can find that's in the fighting game community. I will never retweet it. I don't care if it's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I will walk the other way.
If it's personal and makes sense and is relevant to the person you're tagging, that to me is fine. Yeah, that's spam, right? That's once you see more than like 5 ads, you're like, this is 100% spam.
Yeah,
and there's no way this is going to be actually relevant to me or my interests. So
yeah, I'm like tagged next to like Arslan, Ash, and Knee, and then like the next person is like someone completely unrelated. It's like there's like Sonic and then Lord Knight. I'm like, who is this for? I can't think of anything that's like all of us is one at here that this makes sense. I'm like, who are you just adding everybody? Hoping you're just spraying and praying? Is that the plan here?
That's exactly what the plan is.
Exactly
don't spray and pray.
Don't spray and pray.
That does not work.
Don't do it. It's got to be like a sniper shot. That's what I'm looking for.
The one's intentionally for you. That's what it should be, honestly. Because I don't actually see people put out stuff that are worth watching if they're just tagging a shit ton of people.
280 characters worth of ads.
I'll tell you right now as well. Yeah, that's an immediate block for me. But again, if you guys didn't learn anything about what you should be doing if you're trying to get into content creation, I highly suggest you re-listen, because there was a lot of tidbits. I was actually taking notes on what those two were saying, questions that Anton was asking. So I'm
sorry.
I'm gonna
that was
go.
good.
No, don't be sorry. I think it was great, honestly. I actually wanted to pick your brain about that. Like, what other content you guys watch outside of fighting games that you thought could be taken from and added onto our community, like other esports, like maybe like CS:GO content creation or League of Legends content creation. But I don't know how much time we actually do have to talk about that. Maybe we could touch up on that another month, unless you guys want to go ham for an extra 30 minutes, because we already hit like our hour mark, you know?
Yeah, we do have another topic. Maybe we can spray and pray. What Brian brought up Ludwig earlier. That's a great example of someone who really structures their content well.
Sure.
That's a good one for sure. I think for me,
is there anyone outside of like FGC though that you guys?
Yeah, because he does a lot of Smash stuff that's very good. Yeah, as far as like other creators go, I think people love stuff like the patch breakdowns Purge does in Dota. I think stuff like really intricate patch breakdowns, or even when I follow Legends of Runeterra, when there's a patch for that game, right? It's a card game. There's like a patch like thing that says like big winners and losers, and it's like an infographic, and then it has like some of the changes that you should look at. If you're the person that creates that stuff, people will love you. That stuff is extremely useful. If you're like making funny skit like videos about patches and updates and stuff like that, people will really love it. There's a lot of people that I watch and consume content from for other games that I find inspiration for, and almost like none of the stuff that I directly do or have done is taken from fighting games. Most of my inspiration comes from watching everything in the world and seeing stuff and taking it in.
I would say for me, you said outside of FGC, but I don't know. I'm going to count this. I'm going to count Smash. I don't know if you even count that as FGC. Awesome Sauce. I recommended his YouTube videos. I'm going to just put the name in the chat. I would love to see more videos produced like what Awesome Sauce does for Melee for Street Fighter, because he has such a clear, concise way of framing just the most mundane aspects of the game and making it very in-depth and interesting. And like his latest video is wave dashing a glitch. Awesome video about one mechanic in a game and just getting philosophical about the arguments, and it's structured and presented very well. High tier oddities, just oddities about a certain character or something, right? He just takes little tidbits, goes in depth, and presents them in a way that's extremely entertaining to consume. And we don't have any of this for Street Fighter. We don't have any of this for like at least what I've seen for Street Fighter. Well produced content about the game that is interesting to people who other gamers. It's kind of nerdy, right? But other gamers from other scenes can look at this and be like, I didn't know what was going on when this mechanic occurred. Now I understand everything about it, and I get why it's hype when it happens, right? That very rarely exists in this sort of format. So I've been watching a ton of his videos, so I would hope to see something like that. It's very technical, but it would be cool to see. And then, yeah, Ludwig, he doesn't count as a Smash anymore. He's beyond that. But watch him for how to structure a video.
The thing I was going to say, too, is, somebody brought up lore videos in the chat. I watched like a 30-minute lore video on Tekken lore about the Mishimas and the Devil Jin and the Devil Gene. Everybody knows I don't give a shit about the story or lore for any fighting game, but this was so well put together. Lore videos like that, I would watch lore video on Street Fighter because I know nothing about the lore of Street Fighter at all. I have no idea how anything works or the world works or anything like that. Like, that kind of stuff would be fascinating for me too to check out. And then I was gonna say, when it comes to other games and stuff, there's tons of really informative videos that people make that are shorthand and like patch stuff like that I brought up earlier. But it doesn't even have to be necessarily about the game and like the modern things about it. There was a video that recently got made by GameSpot about like the history of the Hadouken, like Brian was mentioning about wave dashing. People love shit like that. Like you can't go wrong with stuff like that. And any of the stuff that like the Score has produced about fighting games too, there's so much stuff. It's an endless amount of things that are not being capitalized on, that if it is your interest or whatever, you could definitely do it.
You watch YouTube, Anton?
I don't.
Watching diva wrestling.
Listen.
Anton's too busy watching trashy reality TV.
Amount of like wrestling on like YouTube or TV, that still counts.
Yeah,
if there's anything you could take from how that's structured to make wrestling more interesting, you could always talk about it.
I mean, I personally watch a lot of League of Legends videos on YouTube, but I just watch the ones. What happened?
That's what I wanted to ask about your League of Legends Vortex.
I feel like a lot of the official League of Legends like content is very good. Like they do this or that crap, I forgot their name.
This or that was Flowers and someone else, right?
Yeah, like they just compare to like, let's say a random team fight happens, or like late game champions, how they fight against each other, or who played better that week, or the videos of like who made mistakes, stuff like that, and they choose which one would win or which one would be the superior option.
Yeah, this or
just
that.
Like that. I like I like corny stuff. That's why I probably watch more personalities, and that's why I kind of focus on the personalities, because you know everyone knows I'm the biggest Casey Tron fan of all time.
Sure.
Like she makes great content. I think it's hilarious, just everything she does to troll everyone. It was, a complete shame that she got banned. It was completely unfair. But stuff like that, like I watch a lot of the personalities. I watch a lot of tutorials for games, but I know that that's not the things that most people want. I know that doesn't get large amounts of viewers.
There's going to be other people who want the same stuff. What I was going to say about League of Legends, the big one for me, my favorite League of Legends thing, and the thing that I love the most, is their champion spotlights. I watch every single champion spotlight that comes out every time. It's the coolest thing to me. Fighting games have sort of tried that kind of stuff, and it was the inspiration that got me to do character breakdowns way back in the day, was the champion spotlights. I think they're the coolest videos ever. I love them. I think they're the best thing ever, and I wish every single fighting game had champion spotlights to that level, because like somebody already brought up, Capcom sort of did that kind of thing, but it wasn't to the same extent that I think champion spotlights are, and they're so useful. They are like evergreen content that you always want, and I love champion spotlights. I think they're the coolest things ever, and I really wish we had more stuff like that for fighting games, either produced by developers or individual creators, for sure.
I agree. I feel it takes a lot more time to overview every attack than the 4 skills that League of Legends has for fighting. Doesn't have to be
everything. It can just be the good attacks. What are the good attacks? That's what you do.
I feel like the way they do the tidbits of like, they just show the very basics of a character in our little reveals.
Yeah.
I don't think it's enough. I feel they need to immediately show like what the V trigger is, and what the V skill is, and like what their plan is for that attack, because League of Legends has a plan for every attack. Street Fighter refuses to tell us why the attack exists. Well, and I don't think they know.
That'd be pretty interesting to have them at least talk about what's going on with the characters, the patch notes for some of the characters, as well as the overall general changes. At least show one character of an example of what's going on. For example, like with the Street Fighter update, they had the hitbox extended inward. Nobody knew what that meant until we started seeing videos like days after.
Yeah, I love champion spotlights and all the stuff created by that, and I love the patch breakdowns that we see, that kind of stuff. It's done by the developers in this case, right? The people who make the game, but the community can definitely make stuff around it for sure.
That's why your character breakdowns are so popular, because people I feel like you have a good mind to know what the characters are supposed to do on day one, and I'm not one of those people. I'm not sure how many people are not one of those people.
It was always, what's up? We're talking about this Mortal Kombat character. We're going to get to the movement, notable normals, special moves, differences between variations, and also there was one other thing that I talked about with every character. I said that 27 times or 28 times in 1 week. I locked myself in my room for Mortal Kombat X, and for like 16 hours a day made character breakdowns. It's all I did so that I could have it out within the first week of the game for every single character in the game. 5 to 10 minute videos on how every character worked.
Yeah, I don't think people know how much time it takes. That's the other thing. If you want to make good content, it takes a lot of time, and to strike when the iron is hot, when you have something topical to get it out there while people are looking into it, takes a lot of work to get it out the door.
Yeah,
sure.
The way you just think about it so fast is ridiculous, because if you gave me MKX and you showed me Cassie Cage, I would have thought she was a zoner that just got people off of her and then punished them.
Right.
But you had them as a rushdown, and I was like, what?
Yeah, 50-50 character. This is what the different variations do. Yep. Yeah. That's the thing that so yeah, that kind of stuff, not everybody has that ability, but some people will figure out characters very quickly. And if that is your ability, then what you have to figure out is script writing, to write a script to explain it, and then putting it together in a video. My videos were all one take. Those character breakdowns were one take. So I would training mode the character, figure out what they do, write out a script for it, and then shoot in one go. Here's how it worked. And I could be 7 minutes in and be like, nope, I got to restart and redo the video. I start a new take. Hey, what's up, guys? We're here with the character breakdown for Cassie Cage. Cassie Cage is a mobile character who's good at this. We're going to talk about, like we do in all videos, we're going to talk about her movement, notable normals, special moves, differences between variations, and game plan. So the main thing you're going to need to know about Cassie Cage is her backdash and air mobility are, that's like, you
Sounds
just
rehearsed.
do it 28 times in a row, and eventually, like, by the end of it, I would be filming one where, like, I had done 3 or 4 takes and I couldn't get it right, and I was just miserable. But I was like, you got to refocus and try again. I'm like, all right, if I don't do this today, I have to do 6 tomorrow, and I can't do 6 tomorrow, and my brain will explode. So here we go. Like, it's like you just got to keep doing it. It was a grind. To be honest with you, I don't think I would want to do it again, but the amount it grew my channel was so tremendous because of the amount of effort I put into it. So it is something interesting to think about. And I thought about bringing them back, but it's so much effort and time and work to do it the way I was doing it before.
I think it'd be a good time to do it because we have a couple new games, or excuse me, we have one new game that you guys are particularly excited for, and it's Guilty Gear, by the way. I've seen people already kind of like breaking down some of the movement of the characters straight off from the trailer itself, especially with the introduction or the reintroduction, I would say, of Millia and Zato. I've seen people kind of talk about how similar they are right now, or some of the changes as well, and break down the trailer like little by little and post that up on YouTube. So,
look, that's cool. Millia and Zato, I like those characters. Visually, I think they're neat. I like their designs. I fucking hate fighting them both. God damn it, Millia and Zato are such shithead characters to fight. Sweet Jesus. Millia knocks me down. She puts the hula hoop on me. Woo! And I gotta look.
Dash left, right. Yeah.
Does she have the pin or not? Is it overhead or low? She's gonna do a little front flip. The hair comes out. She whips that shit over. She rolls backwards and does an overhead. Fuck this character. And Zato too, who is a piece of shit. I hate fighting them, but man, they both look cool. Like, they're both such cool characters. I just don't like fighting them both. So, like, I'm not mad they're in the game, but I'm like, wow, this trailer is so cool. Fuck, man, I gotta fight these characters. That was like my feeling the whole time I saw them, was like, they're so cool, but like also I'm like, fuck, I gotta fight both of these characters. This is gonna suck. I was like, god damn it, dude, what am I gonna do? They both look fantastic though, for sure. I don't know, did you guys watch the trailers?
Well. Yeah, it was actually pretty sick.
It was only a minute. It's only a minute of your life.
I've never seen really like a lot of Guilty Gear before. I'm not really paying attention too much. I paid attention towards like Rev 2,
okay,
towards the end. So seeing the new Guilty Gear has really caught my attention, and just seeing Zato, like I've seen a handful of Zato in Guilty Gear in general because of the folks I'm around. But I gotta say, he looks pretty damn cool in this version.
He is cool. The little Eddie waving his arms and shit. Like,
so
oh man,
sick,
somebody posted an emote of that in my emote suggestions and wanted me to make that an emote. Just Eddie, just fucking. I was like, that's a good idea. I should do that. Yeah, I'm excited. And I think obviously the big news around it is they announced they have a closed beta test coming out soon, and then they announced, hey, this closed beta test is going to have delay-based netcode. But the full release of Guilty Gear will have rollback, which everybody was like, oh my god. Everybody got fucking hyped for that. Everybody was really excited for it. And I think it's a cool sign to see Arc doing it, not only because rollback netcode in the game is great, a lot of people can play as long as the rollback is functioning, but it means that potentially in the future, all ArcSys games could be with rollback netcode, right? Once they've built it and they understand how to do it once, if they're building new games in the future, they can design from the very beginning of that process and have rollback in mind, which means, you know, the next anime that's like, hey, you know, not Dragon Ball or whatever, let's say another anime, My Hero's like, hey, we want you guys to make a fighting game for us, you know, they're like, okay, we can make this fighting game from scratch with rollback netcode in mind, which is, I think, something that is really cool potentially for the future.
I'm kind of interested in what the process was to make that happen, because why is the beta going to have delay-based netcode, but then the final product having rollback? Was this the decision made partway through the development? Was there some kind of weird, technical reason for this? Because that kind of worries me. I would want their betas to have the real netcode right from the get-go, so they can start getting feedback from it and understanding if they're developing the system correctly or not.
It's very important information, because there was a dev interview where they said, you know, this UI that we had here is a failure. And the reason we realized the first UI was a failure because of your guys' complaints. So we're going to completely rebuild the UI and start from scratch, right? Which tells everybody that UI they had, that was the one. They were feeling good about it. And then everybody was like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, oh shit, we should change it. The fact that the game is currently delay-based netcode in this beta tells you they had not built it with rollback in mind. The plan was not rollback. There was enough people screaming and yelling and filling out surveys saying, Daisuke, Lord and Savior, we need rollback in this game to enjoy it, that they were like, we got to do it. You know what I mean? That was the turning point, because you don't build a game and then have this delay-based netcode in it if, like, you know, you're designing from the beginning to have rollback. You would want to test your rollback netcode in this test, right? So it's very clear they're like, well, we got to put rollback in this game. It's something that people clearly want. So it's going to probably, I'm sure, be a ton of effort and time for them to do this correctly. But, you know, they have Zynak, who was working on Killer Instinct in the past there to, like, oversee and try to make sure that it doesn't get implemented poorly. And it is really cool that they are going to do rollback for sure. It is such a big deal that they're even considering it, and that it's going to happen for the final game. And to me, it just makes, like, it makes my feelings about the game feel very satisfied, because, you know, they saw this feedback from everybody and actually said, you know what, you know, we're trying stuff. We want to make sure that we do this correctly. You guys are right. We'll scrap this UI that you guys don't like. We're going to make something new. You guys want the netcode to be rollback netcode? All right, well, we're going to have to implement rollback. So that means that they're listening and concerned about the, you know, potential buyers' feedback about the game.
Yeah, it makes me more likely to try it out. I was interested in the game. It looks sick. Never played Guilty Gear before, though, and I was not wanting to brave the online waters of delay-based Guilty Gear. So I think from a casual fighting game perspective, because that's how I'd be approaching it, very casually, it does make me more inclined to check it out, because I feel like I could, if it's done right, I could turn on quick play or whatever system they're going to have. If they have a good, that's the other concern. I've seen the lobby system from Guilty Gear that I don't understand, and the DBFC system is strange too. But if they have some kind of matchmaking system, I can turn it on, mess around, and try it out, and not hate my life beyond getting completely mixed and destroyed in the game itself.
Yes.
So it does give me more incentive to try the game out.
I'm actually extremely excited for the rollback. I'm not sure how much it's going to help sales, though. I never know how important rollback is for the sales, but in my head, I think it's a genius idea that they did delayed based test code first, because people, it seems like there will be people out there that will buy just for the rollback. So even if the rollback is bad, they're going to be willing to buy the game and try it out on that rollback netcode. And the fact that it's dangerous game, but Street Fighter V in particular said that all of their beta tests was all stress tests trying to predict, like, how well their netcode is going to perform, and they're going to work on it. And I swear to God, the internet did not change, or, like, the netcode did not change post those netcode.
Dude, there's always there's the people that were tests. Like, bro, beta 1 or beta 2 or beta 2.5 netcode was so good. There's always people that, like, say this kind of stuff, and I'm like, no, it has not changed. It's like, come on.
You played 3 games and they happen to be good versus the thousands upon thousands that you played since then. Obviously, your sample size might be a little off there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think the announcing delay based first and then going to rollback after is just like, you know, the Sonic movie showing the insanely ugly Sonic model first, and then surprise, it actually doesn't look like shit after. Oh, now it's the #1 movie.
Yeah.
Like one of the best opening weekends for any movie.
Bro, nobody's gonna be able to go to the movies anymore. It will be the movie of 2020.
It's the final one. Yep. Sonic rules the box office from here on out when they all close forever. So maybe there's going to be a certain effect with Guilty Gear, at least within the FGC itself, within the audience that actually understands what those words even mean. I do think having the little bit of controversy and then listening to the people gives them a little bit of extra brownie points So who knows? It could be a strategy.
The other
but for
thing,
people outside the FGC, they're not going to know what that word means.
Yeah.
But if new people try it out, they'll actually be able to play the game, and it won't feel like shit online. And they might say, "Hey, check out this fun game that I have no problems on a technical level playing because the game actually works for once." Rather than, "Hey, check out this game. Oh, by the way, you can only play with 5 people who have a 5-hour connection and within a 20-mile radius, and you have to find them on Discord somewhere."
Yeah.
And it really lets a fire under everybody else's ass, right? It's like, hey, dude, these guys took a risk and it paid off. They listened to the community and it's going to be working out. Like, why aren't we taking the steps forward to do the same thing? It's going to be setting a really, really brand new standard, really, if it succeeds, right?
Yeah.
If it's implemented properly.
That's the thing for me is there's 2 things, right? One, I suspect they will do another beta test with the rollback when it's ready, right? It seems to me like, they were planning this one regardless, and then they're like, shit, we're going to switch to rollback. So we'll have this beta test for you guys. My thought is it's almost certain that they will do another one when they are ready and the rollback is like, they want to give it a test and make sure that it's working correctly. The other thing that I was going to say about about having rollback now in the game is that, yeah, not only is it good for the future, but it probably sets that precedent for other companies. You mentioned that, like, outside of fighting games, maybe people don't know exactly what rollback is, but there's been some like pretty like general stuff on Reddit and other places where people are like, hey, fighting game netcode sucks. There was a thread on our games that was like, I can't play Samurai Showdown because the netcode is trash. It's like so bad. And my video yelling about netcode performed really well on games. And in the comments, there's tons of people who are like, yeah, I've tried to play this fighting game online or that fighting game online, and the netcode is really bad. So maybe they don't know the specifics of the difference between rollback or delay, but they obviously will understand, like, hey, this netcode sucks, or hey, this netcode is good, and you see fighting game stuff get posted on like general subreddits or general places, or make their way to just, normal people who don't play a ton of fighting games in other places. So I'm very curious to see kind of like what the reception is like if the netcode is good. And yeah, I'm very curious to see what this does to other companies, if they're interested in adding it or not.
I'm actually very the other thing about the rollback netcode is I don't know who they're listening to. I hope it's actually us in America sometimes that our voices are heard, and not just, or if they started listening to the Japanese, because these companies have been actually outwardly saying that they're going to improve because they've heard us. I'm not sure if that's good for like everything else, if we're going to continue to make our complaints, if we're actually finally being heard for the first time. But back in the day, they just didn't even care about our opinion. But I feel like now they're finally hearing us, except Tekken, but that's a different story. But I feel it's going to be a good future if they continue to listen to our complaints, because we really are, for the most part, this is a huge deal for fighting games if we have a playable netcode. If we have...
Well, I was going to say that's kind of like a common thing with modern games, right? Like there is much more of a dialogue between developer and player a lot of the times in modern games than there used to be. And I think that comes with like the frequent patching and the game changing much more often than, hey, we released the version's out there, all right, later, and they just disappear, and then they show up and they're like, hey, guess what? There's a new version. It's not quite the same as it used to be. You know what I mean? It's like now there's more frequent discussions, and people are, social media and everything lets people discuss more often with what's changing and stuff. So yeah, it just seems like something, and Japanese developers maybe don't do it as much as developers do in the West, but it's happening more and more for everything, that people are like, hey, here's what's changing about the game, or here's what's not changing, or here's why we've changed this and stuff like that.
Yeah, it does seem like Japanese developers are getting more on board with how that dialogue works in the West, because I did feel like shouting into the void for the longest time, and that Western consumers were not the primary audience. But I'm just guessing. I feel like by the numbers, the West does account for a huge amount of the player base and the consumers who actually purchase these products. So it makes sense to try to invest in things that will get their customers in these locales happy and potentially grow in those areas, because there's so much more for potential for growth in like the West versus the region where it's already optimized for, like, Japan, Korea, whatever. It's already kind of optimized for those kind of places with small geographical distance between players and really good internet infrastructure, right? You're not gonna, it's already optimized there. You're not gonna grow too much in that place because the potential for growth is limited, because you already have more of the audience there captured. The West, you definitely have a lot of players there, but there's just also more people. There's a lot more people in America as a whole than in Japan. And there's people who want to play your products, they want to support them, but can't. And then they get their foot in the door, and the door, slams on their toes, and they're saying, "Fuck this! I'm not going to play shitty online games." Mm-hmm. So I feel like they're finally coming up and realizing that, and it just goes to show with even like Capcom with the recent patch notes for their online matchmaking system, they went into so much detail about how they organized the bars for the ranked match settings. Like, what does a 5-bar mean? What does a 4-bar mean? They went into so much detail about explaining this, about potential network issues that you might experience on an individual level. And they broke it all down in extremely detailed documents to say, this is what things were like before. Here's what we modified and why. And a year ago, if someone showed me that, I would be like, "You made this shit up. This is Photoshop.
It's fan made." That's definitely the Brian F patch. They were like, "All right, let's make it so that people don't play other people in other regions," and like it was like the Brian F patch.
I was thinking that too, but then they didn't explain how they calculated ping. That's where I still feel like I don't really trust you, because what does it mean to have 20 milliseconds of ping? Right. Is that an average? Is that one sample? Was it 20 milliseconds for half a second and then 120 for the rest?
Yeah.
So there's still a little bit to go, but companies seem to be taking big steps in terms of transparency and addressing the issues we've had in the West.
Yeah, that is a good sign for sure. I hope it continues.
I mean, with the recent patch, you cut off one head, another one grows back in. It's
a Hydra?
Yeah, so I mean, with that patch too, they also had, I believe, hidden nerfs, and not hidden necessarily.
Oh yeah, the balance.
They added buffs and nerfs to a variety of characters.
Yeah, they weren't hidden. I realized after. It's just that the patch notes just have mistranslations. Is what it was. Mm-hmm. So, like, you couldn't tell, or just putting the wrong word in place of another. For instance, Abigail, it said pushback on block for his light kick. It was pushback on hits only, which made all its combos drop. Yeah. So they mentioned in patch notes some changes, but like you guys were mentioning earlier with the League of Legends character overview and the patch updates, they don't say what does this mean as far as the gameplay perspective goes. They do that for a few, like extending the hitbox inwards, that weird phrase. They did say that this would resolve issues for characters dashing into moves and them whiffing.
Yeah.
So they did explain that. But then the little one sprinkled in there, they don't know what they're talking about. For Rashid also, they said that there was a hitbox increase on the V skill 2, but a hurtbox increase on the V skill 2, but it was actually his whirlwind shot. So they just put the wrong word there. I realized that I even just made a video about that, about a stealth nerf, and then I realized after I reread the patch notes, I was like, no, it's mentioned here, but they clearly put the wrong move name there.
I see.
So yeah, they snuck in a few nerfs and buffs, and I don't think they actually tried to hide any of it. They just accidentally did that by mistranslating or putting the wrong word. But yeah.
They didn't announce the patch changes. Like they didn't announce they were going to try to do balance changes. I feel like that's why people were taken aback. It's not that they did them. It's that they didn't announce anything at all.
Yeah, I think all of us thought it was just a matchmaking patch, right? That's what they said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when people were finding it before they posted up the translations for it, even then they're like, oh, hidden patch notes, hidden nerfs, hidden buffs. So people scrambled and tried everything out for each character that they had. But back in season 2, they did have change lists, and they did explain why they made these changes and what they want the characters to be, but it just didn't make any sense with each move that they buffed and nerfed. They were just throwing out ideas on what they wanted.
It was not always consistent, right? Yeah,
it was not consistent at all, and that's the problem with the people that are doing these notes, the developer notes. It just doesn't make sense to maybe our level of play.
You probably need a communication between the people who are making the changes and whoever's writing the notes, right? Because I'm sure whoever's writing the notes is like, they read what the changes are and they're like, okay, it seems like they're trying to make it so that the character attacks and stuff better. Like it's like they're like not exactly sure what the changes are. Like that's like an important communication point for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they could just say this change makes this combo not work anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they just said that, it would just clear, like the Abigail nerf. It's like this nerf makes it so you can't do this combo anymore.
Yeah.
We didn't want Abigail to have these strong confirms from up close, given his high reward from command grab and confirm. So you have to choose one or the other. You can't do both.
Yeah, it's easy peasy, right? Yeah.
Right. That's the description right there. But they just say the pushback on blocking increased, which was wrong. It was the pushback on hit. And then they don't explain why they made that change in the first place. So the people take to Twitter and then they go, oh my God, fuck Capcom, my character's dead.
That was like us trying to figure out the Tekken patch because they dropped the notes. and the Japanese version had like the inputs and like what changed or whatever, and then in the English version it was like, bro, it looked like hieroglyphics. Like I couldn't. There was like people call it wingdings patch notes, and I was like, bro, I don't know what is even happening in these patch notes. It's so absurd. So yeah, it's pretty rough.
I don't know if they ever would want to do that in the future. It's clear to me that they're trying, but they just don't have someone technical enough, or I guess because before, like, even Combo Fiend's explanations for Busted Nurse in Street Fighter 4 were pathetic. They were the worst. And he was a great player. He's a great player now. We just need people that know why they're doing what they're doing. I remember in season 2, they said that something along the lines of Chun-Li's a very technical character and controls the mid-range and is pretty much queen of footsies. But they like nerfed every footsie button that she had. And I'm like, excuse me, you should have just said that she was a broken character and you wanted to nerf her instead of trying to spin it in a way that you want her to be played in a certain way.
Yeah, there's spin. I think the Combo Fiend, the meme that everyone has of Yun having a hard time getting in, I think that was him just like, what do you want me to say right here?
Yeah.
Besides saying that you're over buffing this character. I'm pretty sure that's where the mentality.
What else can he say, right? He can't say like this change sucks, but Yun's lunge is plus now.
Hey, these developers are fucking psycho. They think Yun needs to get in harder, so good luck dealing with this, right? Like,
and then they immediately changed it. They're like, all right, our bad. We fucked that. Like, it's like,
right.
Like, when you think about it like that, that job is the worst job ever, for sure. Like, that job of being like, all right, guys, well, it turns out Yun was struggling to get in. According to who, I'm not sure, but it turns out that's the plan. Like,
they took away the height restriction, or no, they increased the height restriction on his dive kicks.
Oh,
and it was downhill from there, man.
Get over it.
And it all led up to Jeremy versus Chris G. Oh man, it was rough.
Look at this fucking hat. Put that shit away. I don't want to ever see it again.
It was Chris G, right? Where you dropped you're about to body him and then you choked it up.
Listen, the
he was spinning the hat and like it's like the gravity just.
Yeah, and it was in 2014, right? Yeah, that's when
it was Comic-Con 2014, and I was there on a whim. I just entered the door. I was like, "Hey, you guys still taking entrance?" They're like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, it's like someone brings up he can't say that like we can't put the X-Men in because Disney hates us. He can't say that. Like it's not a sentence Combo Fiend can say out loud about the game. So he's like, there's other functions that'll get the job done. People are like, boo, and it's like he just has to be like, yep, all right, well, like what can I do? That job seems awful. I would never want it.
Is that the reason why we don't have it's all come full circle? That's why we don't have the full-on explanations of our patch notes now.
Yeah, they're like, we don't want
to be that guy.
If we don't have somebody out there telling them what changed, there's no one to yell at. So fuck it. Fuck it.
It's who's the developer of Street Fighter? Like it's just developers' notes. There's no name. It's just.
Yeah, like who's making the changes and for what reason?
It's all Ono. Every line of code, every decision, all Ono.
He's like a one-man band. He's got a harmonica and a giant drum he's banging and he's coding and like, man, he's a beast.
Exactly.
That's pretty impressive.
But yeah, that's all I got. I feel like Street Fighter has always tried to be transparent as much as they can. They tried, like in Street Fighter 4, they had the location test for Ultra Street Fighter 4 at many locations. And I remember even Mark Teddy screaming, "Where's Combo Fiend?" when
that was so funny.
Stuff was whiffing, and I was like, "Keep it whiff." I remember screaming at myself when I was like, "How come NyxRose Sprout is no longer throwing missiles?" Like, excuse me. I remember, but like, they have ideas that might be greater than ours. Like that is for the best interest of the game, and we don't know why. But at the same time, it's just some of these are just so blatant that it's a mistake, and I feel they just need to work on that.
Yeah, not having a person to yell at is one thing, but not having explanations about anything that's happening is so weird sometimes, right? Like, why did this happen? And you have to just assume they're like, well, they didn't want this anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
They saw Abigail players running amok, just running and taking people
Literally
across the street. They're like, this is too much.
That needed to go.
Yes.
Who thought that was a good idea?
Yes.
Who like of all the Abigail buffs they gave him, he deserved some of them. I felt, but like that one, I had to scratch my head. I was like, why does EX run corner to corner every single time it connects? Anyways, that needed to go. And then once again, they do what they do is they nerf something else along with it, even though there was only one problem.
That was absurd.
They Balrog tap from season 2, but also nerf the range and all his moves and all his frame advantage and add crush counter scaling. So that's just kind of how they do it. You never want your character to get over buffed because they will take that away and then some for no reason. So.
They're like, before he was probably too weak, so we're gonna buff him like a lot. Oh, we should nerf everything, including stuff that was the same as before. You're like, Now he was worse
Right.
than where he started. What did you guys? It's like, well,
Exactly.
I will defend Brian that Balrog season 2 was not a big problem outside of Tap.
It was mostly Tap. Tap was
Tap was
But
absurd. Yeah.
They like to kill
That
characters
needed to
off.
go.
Do you think Minot deserved all those nerfs outside of V-Trigger? No.
Yes.
Like, excuse me. I tried to.
You see how he tried to set you
Never
up? He's
again.
like, I will agree that Balrog didn't need that many other nerfs. Like Minot, and it's like,
Quite the airball.
that was a setup.
Blocked.
There might be more of these coming our way in the months to come, really, because again, we don't have any events happening. But some of the things to look forward to next month as we wrap it up. For me personally, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus having their DLC come out.
Patch notes too, or patch 2, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So be sure to look out for that in April. Guys, anything you guys have in mind for next month?
Resident Evil 3 remake. I'm excited
Damn
about
right.
that. Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7. That's right. April
Final
10th
Fantasy.
too. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Great time to stay home.
And then besides, I mean, I'm just chilling and streaming and, life continuing at home as usual.
I assume you said as usual.
As usual.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, what about y'all?
I know he's trying
Same
to learn some more Refly Infinites with Iron Man. We were
I've been
going through it
messing
last
around.
night. Yeah.
I've been messing around with some MVC2 stuff. It's pretty interesting to dive into a new game and actually try to learn a combo system and maybe actually eventually learn how the actual game works because I'm kind of
This guy was like interviewing me like I knew how to play Marvel 2. He's like, hey, how does a combo system work? Hey, can you do this off of like a jump?
I saw you on Twitch do a combo and it blew my mind and I was like, this guy must know everything.
Jeremy has played before. He played Marvel 2 a
brain.
long time ago.
What
played it
I've
as a
learned is
kid.
that if you had played Marvel 2 a long time ago, you actually know nothing about how the game works. That's what I've learned. I had Justin Wong, Clockwork, and Nerd Josh all coaching me through that Iron Man Infinite, and not a single one of them understood anything about the game. Is what I came to understand. And then J.M. Croft came out with his video. You mentioned J.M. Croft as a content creator. He did the Iron Man Infinite after I did it, and he explained 100% of every mechanical question that I was very confused about and that none of them been answered in like 2 minutes.
Yep.
And I was like, bro, I wish you were in my stream chat when this was going on. So,
You're like,
anyways, you
they're
don't
like,
have to
yeah,
be a
it's.
pro. You don't have to be a pro to make good content.
They were like, there's random Dizzy in the game. There's there's like random combo drops out between 51 to 59, and he was like, oh, that's like a Dizzy mechanic, and you're like, excuse me. This exists in the game? Nobody has told me this. All these players have been playing forever, and they're like,
It just randomly drops. They treat it like some mythical, I don't know, like some kind of ancient tribe worshipping the unknown of Marvel versus Capcom 2. No one understands its mysterious ways, which is
Iron
very
Man
strange.
drags the sun in his chariot as he does the infinite with up forward heavy punch, and that's how the sun sets every day. That's just how it works. And you're like, all right.
Well, that's my plan, to learn more Infinites without learning Neutral and MVC2 and more content, more streams. I'm working remote, so unfortunately, actually very fortunately, I'm still kind of on the normal daily grind. But in between, we'll try to find ways to keep the people entertained, keep myself entertained, and stay inside like I always do.
Anton, how about you? You gonna start streaming or what?
Yes and no.
Oh, you have a project coming up.
I do have a project. I'm working with Sherry Jennings and Stupendous on making an FGC poker night, and we're debuting it next week on Sunday night.
Oh,
Where
damn.
can we possibly find it?
On twitch.tv/stupendous. So I'm not going to be streaming it, but it was my idea to like, I was like, let's have a poker night. I think people will like the poker night.
Mm-hmm.
So one pro tip. Make sure to turn your stream delay on very high.
Oh, no. We're trying to figure out what we want to do with it. If we want to show hands first, or if we want to just completely omit the hands.
No, you just turn on stream delay. You get on a Discord call and you turn the stream delay on like 5 minutes or something, and that way that they can't stream snipe you while the hand is going on.
I think they're just playing together though, right?
Play, by the way.
Are you playing in person?
No.
You're playing online, right?
There's no people. There's social distancing. So
yeah, exactly.
We're playing online.
So Stu can stream with his stream delay on. So by the time the hand is over, that's when it actually shows on the stream.
Yeah. The thing is, like, the producer would then not be able to play. So Frankie would not be able
100%.
to play. You know what I mean? If we showed the hands.
We'll talk about this outside. I don't think you're. I'm pretty sure this works.
I would just show my hand because if I'm playing with other people, I just assume they're not looking.
This is FGC. People listen to buttons.
Oh man.
and do other
I would
outside
stream
game
snipe.
stuff.
I would stream snipe every single time. You're playing for $5.
100%.
I'm stream sniping.
Oh my god, you guys are the worst. Can't
we're
trust
playing for-
Balrog
Yeah.
players. Can't trust him as far as Iron Man
definitely not.
drags the sun.
We're playing for
Jesus.
subs and DLC. What it is.
Ooh, that's actually a good idea.
All right. So again, you guys already know what it is. We got a good amount of stuff coming out next month in terms of the content that these fellas are producing, games to play. We understand that it's a global crisis right now, not being able to do much. Pandemic is the better choice. But still, don't fret, man. We got plenty of stuff to go around in terms of content creation and things to watch and games to play. So, guys, without further ado, how about where do we find you on social media?
Starting with you, Jeremy.
Oh, okay, sure. I'm at Vicious FGC on Twitter, Instagram, now YouTube, and Twitch as well. Slowly starting to build YouTube, trying to figure out what I need to do. I just need to listen to this podcast again and figure it out. How about you guys?
I'm Brian_F on Twitch and YouTube, and BRI4NF on Twitter still. Save me. Somebody save me.
Twitter.com/Filipinoman, just straight through. I'm going to try to work on my Grand Blue game. I'm going to try and stream more by June. But for now, I'm working on little tidbits to keep people entertained in little ways with the SoCal FGC, because we just don't have enough of us anymore and people want to see us.
Yeah, play poker for sure. That's a good idea. I stream here. You can find me on Sajam on here, Twitter, Sajam, YouTube. You look up Sajam, you'll find me there. This will be on Spotify, in case you guys are curious. I also have the other two podcasts, like the other podcast and D&D show, are on Spotify and separate things, so you can find all of them and follow them individually. In case you guys are curious, just look up Afternoon Tea on whatever you're watching. I don't think it's on everything yet. I think it's on like
It's
iTunes.
everything but YouTube, right?
Yeah, it always goes up on YouTube, and it always goes up on Spotify and different other places you can find the RSS feed, in case you guys are curious. I will probably not be streaming tomorrow. I've streamed 7 days straight, and I've done like 8 or 9 streams or something in that time. So I'm going to take Monday off and be big chilling. But I'll be back Tuesday as usual, so that's the plan. You can probably find this on YouTube, I would guess tomorrow. Is when this will be up if you missed any or all of it. And yeah, you guys have a good one. I'll catch everybody around, and let me run a quick ad and send you guys on your way. Later, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Peace. Thank you.